Vanidu was expected.
Already Lasith Malinga influence flowing through. Vanidu Hasaranga almost, lowering his arm in his action. We've heard the Undertaker ball or, names being called out on different variations. And now Juan Tushara coming in.
Garadia. Welcome to Sri Lankan Cricket Podcast. My name is Vida and I'm joined by my co-host Sohan. How are you doing, Bora?
Doing good, Vida. Watching a few of the games that are happening at the moment. But yeah, excited to be back recording another episode. How about you?
Yeah, me too. I have another screen on the side here watching the game. Sri Lanka playing their second T20 international in Sydney. Australia batting first, 2 overs gone, 15 runs for no wicket at the moment. We had a bit of a break last week. We had a lot of queries because we didn't release an episode last week, and my phone was pinging on Monday morning. We have lots of listeners who are used to listen to our episode in the weekend. We had to take a bit of a break. Sometimes life gets in the way. And both of us were busy and we couldn't find a time to record. Sometimes that's how it is, isn't it, Bora?
Yeah, a few things come up our way, which we kind of had our commitments through. So nonetheless, we are here recording our next episode. Few things have changed in a month's this timeline. So most, I think, popular thing being a lot of the coaches have been, moved on and a lot of changes in that aspect. But I think with the topics that we are going to discuss and being mindful of the time that we have, I think would be a good way to kick off into the cricket that's happening at the moment. And then following on, we'll probably touch base with the IPL auction that's happening. Because as we speak, already a few of the Sri Lankan boys have cashed in in the auction. So we'll touch base about that, just a few things that we've noticed. And eventually get back into the topic of coaches. Sri Lanka is still looking out for a coach. The rest of the world have been moving on, have made some few changes. But coming back into the series that is happening at the moment, we are 1-0 down in the series. But I mean, a good sign. We kept the strong Australian team for 150. I mean, at the start of that match, if you said would you take 150, I'm sure the boys would have been pretty, thrilled and say, yep, let's go that down. Unfortunately, we fell off the mark with the bat, but at least there are a few pointers up there for us to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. In our chat with the Muralian podcast, Mark Machado mentioned, and he asked us what are our expectations from this T20 tour to Australia. I think this trip is about November, the World Cup. What we gain from this 5-match series will benefit us when we come back in November for the World Cup. That's how I take this series. You are right. I mean, that was a good opportunity for us to win the first game of the series and stamp the authority, because I think Australia T20 team was caught by surprise of the quality of our bowling and the plans we had to each batsman. And we used the conditions well. We pitched the ball up and we took wickets in the right moments to keep them to 149. But we didn't capitalize the power play overs and we didn't get many runs in that first 6 overs. So that in the end, that hurt us because it was asking too much from the lower the batsman to chase down the score, going at 14 runs per over. But lots of positives from that game. Hopefully we'll win this one and go 1-1 in the series. What do you think?
Yeah, I think already Lasith Malinga influence flowing through. Got Vanidu Hasaranga almost, lowering his arm in his action. We've heard the Undertaker ball or names being called out on different variations, and now Juan Tushara coming in.
Garadia.
Yeah, yep, exactly right. So I'm sure he's putting in a lot of input, and especially with not having, I mean, Ramesh Ratnayaka being the interim coach, Lasith Malinga probably has a stronger influence in that coaching group, and his voice in his opinion. We see him, the guys are trying out different things, and perfect opportunity for Nuwan Tushara. He's got a perfect mentor to help him out, who knows the conditions, knows his action similar, and Nuwan Tushara having, I guess, modeled his action around Lasith Malinga, will bank a lot on it. I think we are doing well with putting the team under a bit of pressure. It's working, I guess, to the expectations we want of keeping the scores down, how we can work through and build enough pressure to make that we don't have a attack that's going to run through an order, but we should have an attack that can keep pressure building through the stage and contain it as we go along. Yeah, that's how I see it. And I think that's something that what holds within this team to keep building up for the future.
Yeah, it's a really good opportunity because Kusal Mendis was supposed to wicket keep in this series, and he came down with COVID, and that brought Chandimal into the team. And we have Danushka Gunatilaka playing in the team again. So he is one of the experienced batsmen in this side, Bora, because there's no Bhanuka Rajapaksa or Kusal Pereira in this team. So, they have to get the most of the runs in this team. As we speak, Nuwan Tushar takes a wicket, Ben McDermott's wicket. Yeah, but I was surprised the way the commentary team talked about our bowlers, Bora. It seemed to me like they haven't been doing any research about our bowlers. They didn't know anything about Matisha Theekshana or even Manidu Asaranga. Even though he's the number one T20 bowler in the world, like they were like, oh, his idol is Steve Smith, and it's almost like they didn't really take this series seriously.
Yeah, I think it's also a reflection of Sri Lanka has been playing. So at times, because we know the players and we understand their capabilities. It's a network that's built up on a short series. When they talk about the players, there's a bit more quality and work behind it. Being number one is not easy, and I guess the challenge for Wanidu is the second year here playing a series. I mean, the first series when he played didn't make a massive impact, but now coming into this series, there's a bit more talked about it. So he's trying to improve on that. And I mean, on the back of the being number one, being on the back of the IPL auction, where he's got money in the bank now, and good value for the performance he's been putting in. So that should change. I wasn't overly surprised when you listening into some of the I guess the way they have analyzed our team, because it was a relatively unknown team that we have. Hopefully the boys, what we want is off the end of this series, there is a lot of positives coming up. Mahesh Theekshana again, I mean, bowling in Australian conditions is not easy. So a lot of the guys need to work on getting more side spin on the ball. Again, similar to Mahesh Theekshana, where I know he's a mystery bowler, but the mystery bowler has the deviations of the pitch. If it doesn't deviate at an angle and create that doubt, he pretty much becomes a slower medium bowler who will just land it on a spot, where he's not challenging both sides of the edges. So if that's the challenge for these guys to learn pretty quickly, because playing in the subcontinent, you have that little bit of assistance, and that's the adjustment these guys have to make very quickly. That's how I see it. And you're right. Listening into some of the comments, like, hang on, you have no clue about some of the players.
No.
And then it's like, all right, it's almost like a good chance for some of the players to sneak in. And that's what almost happened. We, bit of that element of surprise. kept the strong, Australian order to 150, and we
Yeah,
just, butchered it in the chase. We were there for a little bit of time, but we just couldn't bring it home.
that's why I'm a bit disappointed, because we could have taken this to our advantage. Because
Yeah,
I mean, maybe Team Australia might be in the same boat, because there was lots of thing happening behind the scenes
yeah,
before this series.
yeah.
So maybe we could have surprised them like that. That if we push and win that first game, we would have.
Oh,
There
yeah.
was a good. It was
If
a
we
good.
won that first game, the media would have gone into play, and a lot of Australian former players who were in, the Langers camp would have been up in the media just tearing
Ah,
this
yes,
Australian team apart. So that's where I thought we kind of, if we would have bounced that first win, the Australian, they would have struggled. Number one, they didn't rate the Sri Lankan team up there. So then
yeah.
if we manage to win, Langer's already being kicked. Imagine the likes of your Michael Clark's, Vaughan, Shane Vaughan, Steve Wozu,
Hayden's, yeah,
asking,
everyone.
Hayden's asking what's going on here.
Mm.
These guys, they want their space, but they can't win a game against an unknown team, is what the media headlines would have been. But yeah, we fell below that score.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I liked about our team is, Bara, their body language is really good in this series. Every player, you can see they have a plan. They have a plan to each bowler, each batsman, um,
Yeah.
in the field, and they're really good in the field, which we saw in the last 6 months. There's been a huge improvement in our fielding. This series, as I said, this series is about November, so we'll have to take the maximum out of these 5 games, try out our players, if who we are thinking of playing in the uh, T20 World Cup later in the year. I think,
Exactly right.
yeah, and next couple of games, sorry, the third game is in Canberra, and the last 2 games are in Melbourne. Are you thinking of going to watch a game, Para?
Yeah, yeah, you could see on the smile on my face. Really excited for that game to come in. Hoping to be out there, if possible, to watch a
Friday?
few games.
Friday or Sunday?
Most likely it'll be the Friday.
Yeah, okay.
One that I'll probably end up going to. Hope, yeah, a few things planned, and hopefully can make it out there, and watch these boys play
Yeah,
live. It's always a good. I know sometimes we are struggling, but when your home team is traveling and playing a game up in a state where you live in, you want to go out there and try to watch the
yeah.
game. So I'm sure that's what a lot of Sri Lankans would be already preparing for. I remember the last series they came up here. We didn't do well, but then we still got a good atmosphere. A lot of people watching the game.
Yeah.
Melbourne tends to dish out a lot of Sri Lankan crowds coming in to watch the game.
Hmm.
Um, and for the players, it's a good experience. You get to go out there, play at the MCG. Those are iconic venues. If
Yeah.
you ask some of the players, something good is to play at Lords, play at the MCG, play in
Hmm.
Galle, play SSC, and some of
Yeah.
those international venues that are around the world. Those are pretty good experiences to have. I mean, the MCG could be daunting and could be so big of a ground, but it's still not many get paid to do that job, mark center and face the ball at the
Yeah.
MCG in front of a good crowd. So that's a professional athlete or a sportsman that you look up to. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, as a spectator, definitely would go out and support and watch a good game of cricket.
Yeah. Now you're tempting me to come and watch Friday's game with you, Bara. We'll see how we go.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a bit busy these days with some commitments, but
yeah,
we'll see how we go.
yeah. See how
Um,
we go.
yeah, I would
Sure.
love to. Yeah, I don't think we'll be able to catch up with the players or the supporting staff
Nah.
because of the bubbles, but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see how we go. Shall we move on to the coaching dramas happening around the world, or do you
Yeah.
got
Happy
anything
with
else to
that.
add? about Sri Lanka
Um,
Australia series?
with Sri Lanka, I guess against Sri Lanka in Australia, ideal time. I know we are playing 5 T20s, but as the players, I guess my advice or my recommendations would be for the players to be out there using most of the facilities in terms of playing on, even on training pitches and
Mm.
being exposed to number one, weather conditions, matches, and understanding the surroundings, because the pitches tend to differ a lot very quickly.
Yeah.
So then how can the boys adjust? Because come a couple of months time, we'll be back here playing the T20 World Cup. So the preparation, yes, is mainly focused on that, and some of I mean, already we've seen the likes of Pathum Nissanka, how well
Yeah.
he's, adapting into opener's role.
Mm.
We need some of the other players to slowly step up. Avishka Fernando needs to step up. His T20 record's not really good. I know he
Yeah.
managed to get a few scores up before the T20 World Cup. Again, those were in mostly games where practice games. They don't go as a
Yeah.
figures,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So it's
They
got to
they
be
were in the
50.
qualifiers, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we change the role now. He's batting at number 3. So slightly different role. But overall, I think we are there. In Pathum Nissank, again, I refer back to him. He played one of those shots of Mitchell Stark, on the rise pool, smacked it for 6. It's almost like, I think a few years back when a good friend Chamara Kapugedera on
Yes.
his debut series hit a couple of sixes of Brett
Yeah.
Lee.
Yeah.
Those are real early statements you can make as a player on a fast track, having in so much time when he looked like he had
Yeah.
so much time when he played that. Um, those are little
Sounded
wins,
so good.
yeah.
It sounded yes, cracking shot. Sorry.
So when little wins like that, those are the things that we can build on and hopefully go up further and get us the big win in the end.
No, you're right. We are lucky to have these 5 matches as a preparation for the World Cup. So we'll have to make the most out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if we lose the series, the experience we gain out of this series is very important for the World Cup.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Langer and Chris Silverwood saga, Bora. So Langer he was offered a 6-month contract extension, and well, this is a bit old news, but because we didn't do an episode last week, I'll just recap a little bit. So Langer was offered a 6-month contract extension, and he refused and he resigned, and Andrew McDonald is the interim coach for this Pakistan series and Sri Lanka series against Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
As you said before, lots of disappointment and lots of criticism coming from especially the greats of Australian cricket about the decision and how they've handled it, especially after becoming the captain of Australia. Cummins hasn't put a wrong foot forward, and this was the first time we saw some criticism coming his way. I don't know, it's looking at the other way. Chris Silverwood was sacked as well, and he got sacked because he's been a bit too soft. And Langer, even though he resigned, the reason was he's been tough on the players. So it's I saw Mickey Arthur has put out a tweet and said, coaches are something in the context of coaches are walking in a thin line, or it's a very thin line they're walking these days. What do you make of all this drama, Langer and Chris Silverwood drama?
I love this topic because I think I keep mentioning it back and refer it a lot of episodes where if it's it's almost driven. It's a professional sport. It's almost now the generational change that we are seeing, where the players revolve. They know what is needed of them, and they need a good environment and support network around it. It's not a environment where the coach is driving the game and aspects of it, because the skill levels are so I guess so intense and specific that they already know what they are doing. It's almost a person to manage and coordinate and support that atmosphere. We talk about, like, you're exactly right, Langer being on the very strict line, and then Chris Silverwood being on the lower end of being too nice of a person by the sounds of it. So, but end of the day, they've got to the athletes, the players have to perform and be out there. Unfortunately, uh, the currency that is there or would be the results what is driving. And if um, Australia failed, or I think Australia failed, look, we've given us the space, and when we work to a plan, this is what we can achieve. Yes, Langer came in, and there's a lot of benefits where he pulled all the distractions of what Australia were going through at the time. He absorbed all of that into him. So in that aspect, it was really good, because everything was driven around him. Because you remember elite honesty, or
Yeah.
um, elite honesty, or all those words that was floating around, and bringing back the old the big brothers of Australia, in Matty Hayden's to Steve Wars to whatnot, was needed at that time to for Australia to come clean from what happened.
Yeah.
But after a while, it felt a drag, and I don't think these COVID bubbles would have helped the team. When you have a
No.
person who's very he's a passionate guy. He's a patriot. So
Yeah.
Langer's style is, Australia. It's in his blood. He'll do
Mm.
anything. We've heard him say, for his captain, he'll go through a wall. He's so gritty, and that
Yeah.
hard
Yeah. Yeah.
player. And he expects that from every player. And some players struggle. That's not the modern players' approach, unfortunately. So
No.
they would have struggled through. I mean, Australia hasn't played a lot of bubble cricket. England's been more the team that has been, traveling, playing in bubbles, and
Look what
then
happened to them.
yeah, they sacked the guy who's been too nice to them. So
Yeah.
um, interesting. So, but I think nonetheless, it's the world cricket. I feel it's a generational change. A lot of the players that are coming in now need players who they can, they want to show what's the output and what they can do, and then get the coaches to help them get that, not be the coach say, I want you to do this and that.
Yeah.
I don't think this that's just normal. Like, there is so many resources for this generation to look into. You got the internet being number one.
Mm.
A lot of analysis are getting done in terms of feeding data, with DRS being there. So they have so much of information that they can learn on their own. Like, even if
Yeah.
all I have to do is, like, if I was in the Sri Lankan national team, I'll go into my team analyst and say, I need all the balls. Say I'm a batsman, I want to see all the left arm, most of the balls, where are they pitching, what's happening, and I'll work a plan according to that. So
Yeah.
I do my own learning, I do a lot on it. So then I'll probably reach out to a coach and work it. That's a high performance team or environment that he's working through.
Mm.
And you need coaches to be there. But that's one side. That's my view of it.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how I see it.
Yeah. Now, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he was the right choice at that moment where Australia cricket needed someone to take the team out of where they were, and you
Yeah,
need someone like Langer there. And
yeah,
times has changed, and the players' priorities has changed as well. And players have a lot more options now, Bora. You know,
yeah,
back 10 years ago, playing for your country was your main income. It's not the case anymore. After a certain point of your life, there are other things that matters. And if things doesn't work out the way you are comfortable, they don't want to do it anymore. And Langer doesn't seem like a person who will meet you halfway. It's his way or no way. So
He'll gun you down. I think he'll
yeah,
gun you down if you say, look, like biggest example I give you, right? Look, as a coach, you go and say, all right, boys, we're having an optional training session tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Just let us know who's been part of that. I bet you if Mitchell Stark goes and say, all right, I'm opting out of it, Langer would gun him down and say, nah, you
yes.
need to train. I think
Not
that's
only
what.
Langer, Shane won't be tweeting all day.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah. So the players need their space, but we go back into that being the right person at the right time. Langer, his coaching attributes are good, but imagine Andrew McDonald being appointed at that time. He would have taken to the cleaners
Yeah,
because no
yeah,
one questioned Justin Langer because he was part of the Invincibles team.
yeah.
So they knew we are with a guy who we can't, muck around and so talk through because he just played it straight as an arrow. Yep, we've messed up with what we're doing. This is how we're going to fix it up. This is the plan with what we want to achieve it. So he did it really well, and it's good that we're at a stage for him, especially that they're talking about it now because everything's on a positive, right? It's very hard to time it out to go out in such a high. You'd rather go out winning Ashes, a World Cup, and you can say,
Yeah.
yep, I've set it up so I can, here's the pathway, take it forward. Whereas Chris Silverwood, if it was Chris Silverwood's scenario, tough. It's a tough choice. He doesn't need not a lot, and he's on a downturn. Not ideal. But with coaching with that means now 3 countries are looking for coaches. And Sri Lanka's popularity of landing a head coach just going on the way down, it doesn't help us.
We go down the pecking order now. We're nowhere to be seen.
Massively. It could be one of the reasons some of those coaches were hesitant to put their names even to be saying, look, they are looking for roles. So many guys, like 2 key player names I can throw out who's been part of Sri Lankan coaching gigs are Trevor Bayliss and Paul Fabres, who potentially could be runners into the Australian and English teams. So might be some of the reasons why they've held it back and not been seen much, showing much interest. So that's how I see it. But I guess for Sri Lanka to overcome, they'll have to pick, or they'll have to decide very soon whether they go local flavor or they go into very, very raw international coach. I mean, fielding coaches or assistant international coaches have gone on to be Sri Lankan national coaches.
Yeah. And the other thing is, bro, we talked about this in our past episodes. One coach for all formats doesn't seem to work anymore. So, so I think it's high time to have at least 2 coaches for, one for red ball and one for white ball. I mean, we might see that happen maybe with England to start with. Like Andrew Strauss is the interim director of cricket. And the changes they've done to their tour to West Indies, I don't understand what's going on there. I remember one of the fast bowlers from Sri Lanka mentioning this when he got dropped from the national team. Sri Lanka was not the best when touring in the early in the 90s and the early 2000s. So when he got dropped, I remember him saying, batsmen are failing and bowlers get dropped. So only change they've done is they've rested Anderson and Broad, and Joe Root is going to bat at number 3, which he doesn't like to bat at. I don't think that's the problem. Those 3 are the guys who have been doing well in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly right. There's I've heard that saying a lot of times where they say it's the batters that are failing and the bowlers have to pay a price. But unlucky. But I guess looking at the English team and the tour to West Indies, it might not be a bad thing to leave those two out, number one, because those two have been good performers in England. So they are taking a touring team out there, because if they are struggling, might as well give that opportunity for another person to, experience it and see if they'll come around. But on the whole squad aspect, yes, their batting was below par. It shouldn't be the bowlers who had to face the axe. So not sure what was going on there. But they've taken Matt Parkinson into that squad, which is a good addition. He's a leg spinner who will be, I think, good value. And yeah, of selections it's interesting, right? It's another topic to bring in, because you got a coach who's struggling to have his team, and then you put in a third mix where a selector's picking a different set of players, saying, here's a team for you, go out and play. And now as a coach, he's trying to find a way or mechanism that works. He probably has a mechanism that works, and some of the players that are in the squad is not that mechanism that he wants. So that's part and parcel of international cricket, even in Sri Lanka, where in Sri Lanka it happens a lot, I guess, with the selectors changing hands. I mean, at least I know it's a challenge, but at least these selectors have been there for a while. So at least it hasn't been like a 6-month case and things are changing. So I know there are a lot of how do I say, big questions being asked with selections. It's going to happen, but at least for the first time in a while, you don't hear their names being talked a lot. So that's something good, that they're being quiet in the back end in terms of Sri Lankan selectors. And it's almost like, here's the team you want to run in. No one's now, questioning like a few years ago when so many things were happening, so many players in and out. So that has eased to a certain extent. So interesting. I just know talking, or just we are keeping an eye out on the match as we speak. Wanidu Hasranga had a run and he looked very ginger at the moment. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Just some muscle soreness or something that happened.
He's coming out of injury.
Yeah, something that will keep. It looks like more of a groin strain or the way he ran, but hopefully he'll shake it off and have more treatment and get on the park. While on the topic of Wanidu Vida, I was hoping might be a good avenue into the auction. The more very exciting.
Let's cross over to that.
Sri Lanka short of dollars, and we got 3 boys bringing in some dollars for Sri Lanka. So that's more of a financial episode that we are talking about.
He's solving the crisis, the dollar crisis for Sri Lanka.
Yeah, few Sri Lankan boys are adding. I mean, Wanidu has about 70% of that contribution, but Dushmanta Chamira and Mahesh Deekshana are going to help the boys out, or help Sri Lanka out in a different way. So, but it's an interesting one. I think we talk about, it's almost like a soap opera scenario where, yes, we watch the IPL matches happening, but we also like, the build-up of this, the auction, what goes around. And it's an uncontrolled environment that's happening. So there may be so many, mock rehearsals or mock auctions that these franchises would have played out to see if they can get their player. But it just takes one person who just feels, one of the owners feel, yep, I want to make a statement, I'm going to keep bidding for this player, when actually it doesn't matter at all. So those are things that are the unknown that happens in the auction, But I think Wanidu's, I think he's the highest paid player that is to be brought in our auction for a Sri Lankan.
So, he is. Earlier it was Angelo Mathis.
Yeah, I think Lasith Malinga might have been getting some good value, but he never went into an auction. So it's almost, he was kept.
He was always retained.
He was always retained. So he would have had I mean, still would have gone in for a good value to keep
Oh,
him
yes.
retained. But from an auction who's gone out to market and been brought at a good price, Vanidu is up there as the highest player. And it's a massive reflection of the work that he's been putting in and the quality. So IPL, I know we talk about the cricket, the glory, the glamour, and the money, but the money is the value you have yourself as a player, because there are no selectors out there who can get you
Yeah.
in a favor. So
Yeah.
your currency is your wickets, your currency is your runs you're scoring, and the impacts you're making in matches. So if you take all of that, Vanidu Hasaranga has been, one of the top performers up there in the market, not only for Sri Lanka, but in the international circuit. Um, there were some good leg spinners who went unsold, where your Zampas,
Sampa.
Adil Rashid. But number one, where Vanidu is above all of them, is he bats. He can bat number top 5. He's an electric fielder, and he's a brilliant bowler,
Yeah.
leg spinner who's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve. So in that aspect, he's miles ahead of the rest, and the other guys going unsold. It's not a surprise. I know they're really good players, but the impact they have are, I mean, when you compare with the like of Vanidu has a lot more.
Yeah. He'll play all the games this season, but
Okay.
Chahal has been bought by Rajasthan, I think.
Hmm.
So he'll be the main leg spinner in that RCB team. You're right. He's the best T20 bowler. You can call him the best T20 all rounder in the world at the moment, because
Yep.
you always want him to bat number 5. He's in a
Yeah.
T20. You can easily send him up the order. The way he bats, he can change a game in few overs. So he's only 24. So hopefully this is just a start for him. And I don't think there will be another mega IPL. Is that what they call it? Mega IPL auction or super
Yeah,
IPL
because
auction?
they've gone with addition of new teams,
New
and
two
they've
teams.
reset pretty much. Yeah, they reset the draft and all the players up in the mix. So um, more opportunities for players to be involved. Hopefully, there'll be more Sri Lankans getting brought
Yeah.
in the auction. I think as we speak, it was more those 3 that we talk about: Vanidu, Dushmanta, and Mahesh Deekshan. I think he got sold, or Chennai Super Kings brought him up.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's also pretty good experience. I don't think it's cheap buy for Chennai Super Kings, but I think value for money for Mahesh would be how quickly he learns and he uses that experience. I mean, he'll be exposed to a lot more data and a lot more analysis of his game, where he'll learn from
Mm.
the coaching setups and the franchise setup. Um, so we'll probably see. Hope we'll see a few more players. I think like Dunit, the Sri Lankan under-19 captain, he might be in the mix for a
Yeah.
spot. Um, and you never know, the likes of your Pathum Nissankas, Charit,
Yeah. Bhanuka.
Asalanka, and the guy Bhanuka.
Kamika.
Yeah, yeah. Those are. I mean, even they might be even brought at a later stage to fill in with
Yeah.
COVID unavailabilities, etc.
Mm.
So there'll be a bit value on the Sri Lankans, but they need to start making statements though, by performing and making scores
That's
in the
right.
matches. So that's how
Yeah.
I
No.
see it. But with the auctions, what are your thoughts? What do you feel in terms of preps that are happening? I mean, if you're in the mix, what would be in your thoughts and
Yeah.
any?
Well, the big difference in this auction, Bora, don't know whether you remember the last time, like with the first auction, um,
Yeah,
the team owners, they get excited and they just bid, you know, because they just wanted to get that one player. Sometimes they go over their budgets, like then they end up with some players where they can't even fit them in their team. That
yeah,
happened in the first time when they had the auction. But now you can
yes,
see they know their limits. There's everyone is there, the coach and the owner, and
yeah,
and the director of cricket and the mentor,
Yeah.
everyone's in that table. So they, as you said, they must have went through all these scenarios, and if we don't get this guy, we're going to go for this guy. And you can see
Yeah.
they have rehearsed everything. And
Yeah.
but there are some players where, you, a coach or the team
Decided.
owner have insisted on, we need this guy, you will go all out to get that guy. And the other thing
Yeah.
is, it's very exciting to see how your value goes up. When we watch it on TV, it's amazing. Like, okay, 25,000 more, 25,000, then it goes up by 50,000. Like, imagine how much how much excitement these players must be getting. Overnight, you're uh,
Yeah.
you're getting
Like even
$1
if
million.
like some of the exactly some of the viewers watching the game would notice some of the um, reactions of the players when one is getting a wicket or whatnot. You
Yeah.
could see them showing the dollar figures, or like they're making jokes amongst themselves.
Yeah.
Like Dushman the Chamir, I think he got sold just before the start of the game, so he wouldn't have known. But I'm sure someone running out of
Yeah.
greens would have said, "Hey, man, you just this team brought you for this amount of money," and he'll be like, he's probably very relieved. For guys like what I think when we talked about these dollar values, and hopefully we reach out to a big wider audience where we say this is it's in the moment the money, but these guys have made massive sacrifices.
Oh,
Dushman the
yes.
Chamira,
Yeah.
Vida, you and I know we played a lot at NCC. He comes from very humble beginnings, and it's a reflection of all his hard work and all that from his parents, all the sacrifices that they've made, and what he's achieved now goes 15, 20 years of hard work. Number
Yeah.
one, by their parents, him himself traveling from Negombo to Colombo to play matches, training. People tend to
Yeah.
forget or don't see that aspect a lot.
Yeah.
It's a uh, massive sacrifice. There are
Yeah.
times
Not
when like,
not
domestic
only
setups,
successes, Bora,
yeah,
the pain,
injuries,
the
failures,
injuries, the pain, and you come back, and it's not hard for a fast bowler. As a fast bowler, like, to get back to where you were after injury,
yeah,
that's really tough. You feel like you're missing something, and you don't want to push
yeah,
yourself early, and it's a really, really hard. That road to recovery is really hard. And keep yourself motivated, because you can see the people you fight to get into the national team, they get their opportunity because you are injured. And you can see them doing better, and you can't do anything about it because you're injured. So it's really tough mentally. So
yeah.
it's all because you've done your hard work, and it's they deserve every bit of it. That's all I have to say. They deserve it.
One thing so sure with the social media, I've already seen some of the memes coming up with the dollar crisis in Sri Lanka and these boys' contribution to it. So there'll be plenty more discussed. The taxman will be behind these boys. So
Yeah.
hopefully
Central
I
bank
should be
governor.
quiet. I shouldn't be telling much or shouldn't be talking too much. That's not my area of expertise. But
It's all
um,
jokes, Bara.
it's yeah,
Just making
uh,
just
just for the fun of it. But
yeah.
again, the auction, like, I mean, we see the guys who brought, but then we have three figures like Mahela, Sangakkara, and
Mm,
probably Murali as well
Murali.
in those franchises who are making key decisions. So
Mm,
the inputs they have would be go a long way. Delhi Capitals, coached by Ricky Pontin, we've seen them dish out a few money
yeah.
or with guys, who are the players in demand. So sometimes they do maneuver around who's involved in those coaching setups and voices, um, and they do add value. So they do tend to add some of the players onto it. So yeah, again, a mixture of what they see in the squads. That's what's
Yeah.
needed.
When I see those three in the auction, Bara, the thoughts going in my head is we desperately want someone like Mahela to come and coach Sri Lanka. But for him to leave all that and come and coach Sri Lanka, we'll have to offer. I don't know what we can offer. So, but the other thing is,
exactly. Like more than offering, like Ricky Ponting in the past has said, look, IPL is a gig which is short term. What 3-4 months of your calendar year? If they've got,
not even that.
Young family. So what he does is, during the winter, gets out to the subcontinent, coaches an IPL team. Gets, that's a passion he has. He's all refreshed, energized because his focus is on that. And then during the summer in Australia, he's working with some of the channel networks, covering the sports, and it's more opportunities. So it's almost a perfect gig for him and his family lifestyle as well. He's a successful entrepreneur as well. So that's their gigs, so short-term gigs where the focus is, and Mahela is wherever possible, he's doing it. He was involved with the under 19.
He's given so much, bro. You can't ask more from him.
In that aspect, it's happening. I guess we tend to ask a lot and we expect a lot from some of the greats. Whereas, some do not tend to agree with what we say, which is right, rightfully so. There's a big commitment for some of the players.
I think all three of them. Yeah, I think all three of them plus Tom Moody are in that panel to find a coach for Sri Lanka.
Get more dollars for the Sri Lankan boys. Yes, that's going to be a question that will be asked in the media, or a few of the. Yeah, leave it at that.
That's it. Yeah.
Anyway, any questions or feedback for us to share?
There's a lot, Bora. They were like all short messages. Most of them were asking what happened to the podcast, because this is the first time we missed a week. So it's all like, dude, where's the podcast? Dude, I'm at swimming with my daughter. I got nothing to listen to, So I don't think we have time to do Q&A today, Bora. We went a bit overtime today, so we'll do a few Q&As next episode.
Yeah, happy with that.
And if you have any comments, suggestions, please send them to srilankancricketpodcast@gmail.com. We'll feature them in the next episode.
Yeah, I'd love to listen to feedback, questions, to keep our brain ticking and think about the game in a different way. Thanks a lot for the listeners listening in. We'll catch up with you on our next episode. Again, give us a like, a follow through the various channels that we provide in terms of, we are on YouTube as well as the various podcasts that are available.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Okay. Bye-bye.